Welcome to episode 59 of Discourse in Magic with Spidey. Now, if you have no idea who Spidey is, he is a magician, mentalist, hypnotist, and all-around rock star entertainer. Now, you might have seen him on college campuses because that's where he performs a ton, but he's also been on major TV shows. He's been on Fool Us, he's been on Wizard Wars, he's been on America's Got Talent, and he is performing all over the place. So this is an incredible episode if you are looking to become a better performer faster or get hired faster. Spidey gives us both incredible tips as well as some unique things that he was able to do based on his story and his surroundings that might inspire you. So here it is, episode 59 with Spidey. I hope you like it.
Spider-Man, does whatever a spider can. Spins a web any size, catches thieves just like flies. Look out, here comes the Spider-Man. Is he strong? Listen, bud, he's got radioactive blood. Can he swing from a thread? Take a look overhead. Hey there goes the Spider-Man. In the chill of night, at the scene of a crime, like a streak of light, he arrives just in time. Spider-Man, Spider-Man, friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. Wealth and fame, he's ignored. Action is his reward to him. Life is a great big bang. Wherever there's a hang, you'll find the Spider-Man.
Hello everybody and welcome to Discourse in Magic. I'm Jonah.
I'm Tyler.
And we are here with a very exciting special guest, someone who I've wanted to chat with for a little while, and I'm very excited. And I'm very excited to dive right in. He tours universities, he tours all over the place. He's a hypnotist, he's a mentalist, and he's now, you'll see his face on Facebook and see him on YouTube, see him all over the place. So I'm very excited to chat with him. Here he is, Spidey. Spidey, how you doing?
I'm doing great, guys. Thanks for having me on the show. Super excited on this fine spring freezing day.
Yeah, we're really excited to have you. So a little background story. We'll start at the beginning. How did you get into magic?
For the girls.
For the girls.
Next question. No, I'm kidding.
How did that go?
It's funny. It started when I was very young. I liked magic. My dad would go to Las Vegas and come back with like these little magic tricks, I guess, from Houdini's, for those of you who go to Vegas. And I was always kind of fascinated by magic, but it was more at first about me being like, I gotta know the secret. How does it work? And then once I knew the secret, I didn't care. And then when I was young, I'd say about like 7 or 8. There was this thing called Magic Works. It was like these super cool magic tricks that were like by this company that has nothing to do with magic, that was sold to kids. And each box had one trick in there that was really like well decorated and like they teach you how to do it, and then this little presentation and you go and do it for your friends. And that's where I started doing it a little bit more. But I, again, only cared for the secret and then very little about the performance. My interest in performing really hit me when I was a teenager, and I got into just card tricks at first, and then it developed from there. And I don't know what it was. I don't know what it was about it that was like, okay, this is what I'm going to do now. I really can't put my finger on that aspect of it, but yeah, I don't know. But something bit me, and I was like, this is it. This is what I want to do for the rest of my life, whether it's creating or performing, and it just went from there.
So was there ever a time when you weren't on the road towards professional entertainer? Were you ever doing something else? Was there a certain time when you decided that this was right for you, or was like from the get-go it went from...
Did you quit a job to become a magician?
Yeah, or something.
That's a great question. I do a lot of interviews, and that transition is not something most people talk about. I guess you guys being magicians, that's something that would interest you. What a fascinating question. So there was a time where magic was a part-time thing. Was there? Yeah. So there was a time where I was in university studying towards my social psychology degree, which I did get. and I was doing magic, and I was getting paid very well for it. Not enough to make a living, but well. And I guess by the time I got my degree, magic was doing good enough for me to say, okay, well, for now, this is what I'll do for income while I figure something else out. And I guess I just never figured that other thing out. I guess magic just got busier and busier. Yeah, I'm still looking for a job, I guess, if anyone knows of any opportunities. No, magic just took over, and I guess before I knew it, I was making enough for me to be happy doing just that.
Yeah, and that's it's a good answer, and it's also like it's a very resonant story with me where I was getting a math degree and I graduated with it, and magic is just handing me so many opportunities that for me to be like, no, I'm gonna go study math, like it's almost silly.
Yeah, let me go work on some matrices.
So I just wanted to tell you a really fun backstory. I perform at camps around Ontario. And it's so funny because when I perform at camps in the Quebec, Montreal region, every time I do a trick, every time I go to the camp, they go, do you know Spidey? Do you know the guy he's on at the movie theater before the movies? Do you know? And it's funny because you were just a guy whose name I heard of. You were the guy who Montreal kids referenced when I did magic. So it's very funny that I don't know. So it's just I just wanted to sort of put that backstory in that you were for the longest time you were just the name of the Montreal guy that everybody knew doing magic. I'm like, there isn't even a Toronto guy that people know that well. So how did that happen? What?
Oh man, it's crazy because I think that so fame hit me in Montreal. You're right. That is something that happened a couple of years ago, and I'll tell you exactly what happened. It's basically I got called for a show. So there's a chain of movie theaters in Montreal, Quebec. It's called Gouzeau Movie Theaters, and it's the biggest chain. Yeah. There's 12 of them. They're like these megaplexes, and everyone goes to Gouzeau to watch movies. I know it's just kind of this weird thing where there's this company that has movie theaters that are the most successful in Montreal, whereas in the rest of Canada, it's Cineplex and whatever AMC and whatever all these other ones are. In Montreal, Gouzeau is where everybody goes. About 7 years ago, maybe 6 years ago, I got a call because the Gouzeau family, the owners of the chain of theaters, they do this massive charity ball. It's not a ball, it's like an evening in the summer every year, and they bring all these celebrities to come in, and it's like a really high class sort of dinner and just this evening. Fancy catering and performances, and they contacted me to do close up magic at the cocktails. They'd heard about me through my cousin who designs jewelry for Maria Gouzeau, who is the owner of the Gouzeau that family. And so I went in and I did the cocktails or agreed to do the cocktails, but I said I'd love to meet with Vince Gouzeau, the owner of Cinema Gouzeau. And she said, yeah, sure, come by the house. She's his wife. She said, sure, come by the house, and I had a plan in mind. So I went over and I met him, and I showed him some magic, and I said to him, I have this plan where I'd like to go to some of your theaters twice a month, whichever ones need the hype. You tell me where to go, I'll go. And I want to film the trick of the month, and I want to edit it up, and I want to put it before the movies while people are waiting. Instead of doing those silly quizzes or those, whatever ads and stuff, I just want to have this thing called Gouzeau Magic, which
Fantastic idea.
Thank you so much, yeah. And it was basically, it's me doing magic for a couple of minutes and inviting people to our Facebook to come and find out when we'll be filming the next ones, and it'll create like this community of moviegoers who get to see some magic before their movie, and then they get to see themselves on the movie screen, which is awesome. Right, so he loved the idea. He signed off on it right away. And I would say it was one of the hardest things ever because I went in talking like I knew what I was talking about, but I didn't. I didn't know how to produce content. I didn't know how to at least at this level. I knew how to produce YouTube videos, but I didn't know at this level. It was a level way beyond my capacity and experience. And what I quickly learned is that the format that you need to put videos into in order for it to play on a projector for a movie screen is a format that none of us are familiar with. It's not on After Effects, it's not on Premiere, it's not on Final Cut, it's not on any of the software that we use. It's its own software that movie editors use.
Oh my god.
Oh, good.
Exactly. So they were ready to sign off on this idea. They were ready to give me a 6-month run. And I knew how huge this would be because of the millions of people who would see me. But this almost got nipped in the bud before it even began because it seemed impossible to transfer the files into the right format. So I made the decision to buy the software that'll do that, knowing nothing. Now, mind you, at this point in my life, I knew nothing about editing. I knew nothing about transferring videos, nothing. I had editors doing this stuff for me for my promos, but I was like, you know what? I'm going to do it. I bought the software, which cost me $2,000. This was me putting my...
I was going to say it must have been thousands for film, movie theater level editing software.
And it was a lot of money towards something that I didn't even know if I was going to be able to figure out.
And just to add to the weirdness of it, it's not like it's a tool for magic, you're like,
no,
I'm trying to use this so that I can do more magic, and now I have to know how to do software, and now I'm $2,000 in the hole in a software I don't know how to use to put myself,
Crazy. It's crazy. And people ask me, what the hell got into you? What made you make that decision? I'm just going to spend $2,000 on a software that I don't even know what the hell it is. And I was like, well, it was me knowing that this massive opportunity is within an arm's reach away, and if this does work, then $2,000 in the grand scheme of things will be nothing. So I did it. I bought it, and it's funny because in the beginning there was a flaw in the software. It would take me about 20 minutes to explain to you what the flaw was, so it doesn't matter. There was a small flaw. I got the woman who created the software on the phone with me for an hour to fix the problem, and she saw that there was a problem and she fixed it. Anyways, all this to say, I got it working, and now I could transfer my video files that my editors would make for me into the format that would get on the big screen. And let me tell you, the first time I sat in that theater and saw myself on the, we see ourselves on the internet, we see ourselves on TV, but when you see yourself on the big screen, it's like this holy shit moment. When your nose is the size of your car, you're like, holy shit, this is big. And so I put it up there, and they invited me in and they showed me what it looks like, and I was like, holy shit, this is great. And they launched it, and they said, do you want to come into the theater and see what the people think? And I was like, no, I want to be as far away from this as possible, because here's the thing, moviegoers at first, I had no way of knowing if they're gonna like it or not. They might be like, who the hell is this dork? We don't want to see magic. Boo! Start the movie. I didn't know what the reactions were going to be, or they might love it. So, for the first couple of months, I didn't touch it. I didn't go near it. I didn't go to any theaters. I was mortified. I didn't want to know. But then all of a sudden, the Facebook starts booming, and there's activity, and people saying, when are you going to film next? Where are you going to be? And I'm like, okay. And then I have the managers of the different Guzos calling me like, hey, we have requests for you to come film at my branch or my branch. I'm like, okay. And so finally I decided to take the plunge and go, totally stealth, go into a theater. Actually, no, the first time I was like, I'm going to go watch a movie and I'm going to see what the reaction is of the people. I never made it to the movie theater because I walked into the venue and people just kept stopping me for pictures and autographs and all this shit. Yeah, and I never made it to the theater. I missed my movie.
So you have no job, you have no movie. What do you have at this point? Huh?
Yeah, no job, can't watch a movie. What's going on? So I decided at some point to sneak in through the back. I called one of the managers. I said, "Let me in through the back. I just want to see the reaction." And it was amazing because here's the thing. Usually, while the movie quizzes or the little ads are going on, people are still talking, chatting, taking their texts and all this stuff. I noticed while the other ads were happening, people are talking, chatting, sitting down and all this stuff. The moment the magic started, everyone just got quiet and watched. And this was a full theater. And I was like, holy shit, people are actually digging this. And then when it ended, they applauded. And I was like, these guys just applauded a magic trick on the screen. What? This is incredible.
It's a video. Like
It's a video, but you know what?
I mean?
Yeah, there must have been something about the fact, like if you watch the videos, it was very personal. It wasn't just like, hey guys, here's a trick. It was like, hey guys, what's going on? I'm here at, such and such Guzo, and I want to see you guys next time. So let me, it was like very sort of personal. So that happened. The 6-month run finished. They renewed it. That 6-month run finished. Now it's been a year, and I'm the Guzo guy. And all of a sudden, Parasuco jeans. You guys must know that. You guys know Parasuco jeans? It's a clothing brand, pretty high end. It's a Canadian brand.
I don't know clothes, I'll trust you.
Yeah. So I know that there's certain malls in Toronto that carry it because it's Canada wide. It's very well known. Anyways, Parasuco jumps on board and goes, "We want to sponsor, Guzo Magic." And I go, okay. So I go take a meeting at Parasuco, and I show up at their headquarters, and the head of the department says to me, okay, so how much do you want for a sponsorship? I go, no idea. She goes, what do you expect from us? Like, how much clothes? I go, no idea. She goes, what does Guzo want from us? I go, I have no idea. So she goes, why are you here? I go, I have no idea.
I love the way you do business.
I don't know.
Yeah, I know, it's crazy. I was way in over my head. And she goes, okay, why don't you go talk to the Guzos and see what they'd be happy with? So I go see the Guzos, and he goes, here's how much you need to pay for the sponsorship. Here's all this stuff. And he gave me the terms of the deal. And he goes, and whatever you want in terms of clothes, well, you just tell them. So I go back and I go, here's what Guzo wants and all this stuff. And I'm negotiating like these massive sponsorship deals, and I'm way in over my head. And I go, and as for me, I'd like a wardrobe, an outfit every month. And they're like, here's what we're going to do. We're going to give the Guzos this, and we're going to give you $1,000 shopping spree a month to do your wardrobe. And I'm like, okay. Like, I just wanted a t-shirt and a pair of jeans, and here they are offering me this massive amount of clothing, which I still have. My wardrobe is like a Parasuco store. It's crazy. There's every so often I'm going through my wardrobe. It's like, oh, look at these jeans. I didn't know I had these. So now Parasuco sponsoring. So the first thing I did when Parasuco signed, this is a year into the series, is I did a trick with their clothing. I did a quick change where somebody picks something from their catalog, and I do a quick change, and I'm wearing it. And it went nuts. I think it was the most popular episode of Guzo Magic ever. Anyway, so all this to say, 15 minutes of storytelling to say that since then I've done Penn and Teller Fool Us. I've done some massive television in the States, America's Got Talent, Canada's Got Talent, Discovery Channel. But to Montrealers, doesn't matter what happens. I can have my own show in Vegas. To Montrealers, to some Montrealers, I will always be the guy from the movies. That'll never go away.
Exactly. And that's awesome. And it's really interesting, especially for people at home. Like, not everyone's going to have a Guzo theaters or something like that. But, depending on your city, there might just be something that'll help you become the icon of your city by sort of working together. And you did it now multiple times. You did it with the theater company. You did it with the jeans company, So, pairing with important people is a...
Nowadays, with the way online works, the way internet works, it doesn't even have to be local. Just, people come to me all the time and go, oh, I want to be big like you. I want to tour, and I want to do this, and I want to do that. I want to be on TV. What do I do? Like, they think there's a magical answer to that. Like, oh, you don't know about makemefamous.com? Yeah, you just go in, tell them your name, and you'll be on TV next week. They expect this magical answer. And there isn't a magical answer. It's get your ass out there and hustle. And if you can't hustle, get someone to hustle for you. I'm not good at, staying organized. Jonah, you know this because of how difficult it was to set up this interview. I'm not organized. But I knew that early on, and so I hired a manager to take care of that aspect of my business. Hustle. You know what I mean? Like people get lazy nowadays. They think there's a shortcut to fame. Oh, but I'm so talented. I practice all the time. Well, good for you. We all practice all the time, and we all network all the time.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you could create opportunities for yourself by just kind of thinking a little bit outside the box, and that's what I did in that case. I said, here's this guy who wants to hire me for a cocktail party. That's another thing to be said. I see so many magicians out there go, oh, I'm so stoked that I get to do a show for, I don't know, Samsung tonight for one of their branches or, their corporate party. And they get stoked because they have this opportunity to go do a show for this big company. When I see that, I don't see it as a show. I see it as an opportunity to connect and make connections with this company. And that's what I did with Guzzo. So many magicians would have said, oh, I'm so stoked I get to go do a cocktail gig for the Guzzos. Yay, hashtag I'm awesome. And that's all it is to them. That's all it is. It's this one cocktail. Whereas I said, well, here's this guy who's hiring me to do this event, but he owns 12 megaplexes in Montreal, and millions of people go there a year to watch this. That's the opportunity. The cocktail is only a step towards that opportunity. And I wish more magicians would do that. I wish more magicians would stop seeing the gig as the end goal. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like that it's not just that, getting to perform for the Guzzos was, your step to getting into the theater, but getting into the theater was your step onto America's Got Talent and Penn and Teller, and like each next step is the next step to the next step to the next step to the next step, right?
Yeah, and it's funny because sometimes a step is a step down because you're saying like, Guzzo was the step I needed to get to Penn and Teller Fool Us or Canada's Got Talent or America's Got Talent. And maybe it was, but to some people, I'm still that Guzzo guy above being the Penn and Teller guy. You know what I mean? It's weird. So it's just, but yeah, what you're saying is correct. Opportunity creates opportunity. You just got to keep riding that wave.
So I want to talk a little bit about right now. Right now I know you're doing a little bit or a lot of college touring. And that is I guess the word I'll use is cutthroat market. First of all, college students are a difficult group of people to woo. And second of all, there's only so many there's a lot, but, there's like events like NACA and other things like that where there's only so many entertainers fighting to be on the same college lines, right? So what's the story? What's it like doing colleges? How do you get in there? How do you get your foot in the door?
Yeah, again, great question. The college market is a cutthroat market. Most people don't realize that so many big names go to the college market, and so many people who get success on these TV competition shows go to the college market, and it's so cutthroat. It's such a unforgiving market because if you're not amazing, you will fail. How do you gain success in the college market? It's a great question. I don't think it's enough to say you have to be great at what you do. Here's the thing. So if I name some of the people that are great in the college market, and I don't want to leave anyone out because so many people are great in the college market, but Joel Myers comes to mind. He was of course my partner on Penn and Teller Fool Us, and he did Wizard Wars, and he was with me on Fake Off and America's Got Talent and all these other things. He's one of the best. And if you as a magician were to go see his show, of course you'd love it, I have no doubt. But you'd see a lot of, material that you've seen before, with great touches, and a couple, you'd see a bunch of stuff you haven't seen before. But the thing that makes Joel great is because of his personality. And I think that's a huge thing. In the college market, these kids don't care who has a better Elmsley count or who has a better Faro shuffle. Yeah. They want personality. They want to fall in love with you. And we network these students like crazy. And a part of the reason I think I do good in that market is because I'm a mentalist. And mentalism is a weird thing because kids don't understand it at all. So that's out of the question. And then, so it's a very adult kind of entertainment. But my personality on stage is very kind of crazy, high energy, and I make a lot of I'm kind of, there's a bit of an immaturity to me within that intelligent art form.
Yeah.
And that's something that not all, like in the corporate world, I do a lot of corporate gigs and they do like it, but I'm silly on stage. And I think college is the perfect avenue for that, where the entertainment is intelligent, but the entertainer is not. And I think they really connect with that. So I think connection is important. I really connect with college students on their level.
I also think they have a strong bullshit meter. You know, like it's like they'll sniff you out if you're being very fake and impersonal on stage. You know, that's one of the hardest parts and one of the most nerve-wracking parts of going to the college market is if you go there and you're like, hi, like I'm gonna do a trick, and then like you're talking to like 18 to 22-year-olds, they will eat you alive.
Yeah.
They test you. College students test you.
Yeah.
When they heckle, it's very different because they're not doing it to be assholes. They're almost testing you. The material that you choose for college shows is extremely important, and I think all college entertainers will say this. Within the first trick or two, you really have to establish that you're cool.
Yeah.
That you can hang with them. You know what I mean? And it's really...
No, but that's so important that you said cool and not like you have to establish that you're awesome at magic, you know? You have to establish that that's not how you're winning over the college kids. You're winning the college kids by them being like, I want to watch this person on stage for an hour. It's going to be more entertaining for the hour to participate than it is to throw tomatoes and go across the street.
Exactly. And every so often, you know, you have that super cool guy who's like, shit, you know, like I'm too cool for this shit. But then you realize he made the choice to come to your show. You know what I mean? These college students aren't forced. This isn't a high school program. They're not forced to be there. So they made that choice to be there. And the second you realize that, you go, okay, he's trying to act cool, but at the end of the day, he wants to be here. So I kind of joke back with them, or, you know, it's funny because I don't know if you guys know this, but before I got into magic, I used to really be into social interactions. I used to teach kind of like going out into bars and parties and, you know, being the life of the party. Yeah, I used to teach. I mean, you know, some people say I used to teach like pickup. It wasn't so much pickup. I did teach mostly guys, but it was more about being socially comfortable. Anyways, it's kind of the same. When you have an alpha male, like when you go into a social setting and there's an alpha male trying to establish dominance, it's just a guy, you know, panicking that somebody else might get more attention than him. And he's going, look at me. And there's a way to handle that. And that's the same thing in college shows. Whenever I see that guy who's trying to take the attention, I give it to him. I bring him up to do a trick. You know, he just wants, he's not trying to heckle me. He doesn't want the show to go bad. He just likes that attention. So I'll give it to him. So yeah, but it is cut. You know, Jonah, you made a very good point. If you get on stage and you're that hacky magician who's like, hey kids, want to see a trick? You know, and now for my next trick, I'm going to do something with this handkerchief. You're going to get destroyed because, Jonah, you said it, they could smell that fakeness a mile away. They could smell before the show even starts. Which is why when I start, right off the bat, I'm funny, I'm silly, I kind of, you know, do that magician in trouble thing. But I don't do it like, oh no, the trick went wrong. I wonder what's going to happen now. It's kind of like, you know, magician in trouble is, of course, do I need to explain what that is? Magician in trouble is any plot where something goes wrong and then you fix it. And one of the best at magician in trouble is my good friend and yours, Chris Ramsey, which I know a lot of you watch and a lot of you follow. And the reason Chris Ramsey is really good at Magician in Trouble is, well, first of all, his acting background helps. But second of all, it's his commitment to not having screwed up, but being a screw up. You know what I mean? There's a distinction there. If you're like, oh no, something went wrong, but now I'm going to fix it because I'm awesome. That's not Magician in Trouble. That's hacky Magician in Trouble. But if you're committed to the fact that you're a complete screw up and this is like, oh man, something went wrong again, because this happens to me all the time, then it's hilarious. And that's the kind of thing that the college students could they could see that distinction between someone who's committing to being awesome and someone who's just pretending to be awesome.
Do you do, like, did you start off in magic and then shift into mentalism? And I know you also do hypnosis. So, like, what was the chain of events that brought all these, different avenues of performance into your life?
It's so funny because we talk about these disciplines like they're Pokemon, like, congratulations, your magician evolved into a mentalist. I started off, I guess, as a Bulbasaur, which is magic. Basically, so magic was, so when you're doing close-up, magic is easy because there's all this magic material being put out. The most common, releases are magic releases, card tricks.
Close-up as well, yeah.
That's what I mean. In close-up, when you're doing close-up, you're a magician because there's more close-up magic being released than mentalism being released. And I think for stage as well. I think the releases is more magic. The thing most people don't realize is that mentalism is more travel effective and budget effective. Because when you're doing magic on stage, what are your props? Illusion.
It could be as big as cutting people in half, which takes boxes twice as big as the people.
Exactly. So you can't travel with that, and it's very expensive. So when I was young, when I was a teenager, I was obsessed with all facets of magic. Mentalism as much as magic, and and all the close-up magic, card cheating, stage productions, all kinds of stuff. So I was passionate about all of it. But then when people started hiring me to do a stage show, I couldn't go do my ambitious card on stage, so I had to select the stuff that would play on stage, and that just happened to be the mentalism stuff, because mentalism, I quickly realized, is not very expensive, because I need envelopes and bits of paper, and pencils and pens, Sharpies and pads and whatever. But it plays, if I read someone's mind, and I tell them what word they're thinking of in a book, it plays to 3 people the same way it plays to 500 people, So because of a lack of experience, my show that I did for people, and at the time I didn't know the distinction between magic and mentalism, just happened to be more mentalism related. The other thing that happened at that same time is that my creations, the things that I invented, were a little bit more of a mentalism nature. You know what? No, false. It wasn't the things I created. It's the things that Theory 11 was interested in releasing. Because, everyone now knows that I work at Theory 11. And the way that worked out is that at first, Theory 11 lacked original mentalism material. So when I submitted stuff to JB, who's now a very close friend, he was more interested in my mentalism stuff because at the time they had less mentalism material. So that's what happened. As a performer, I just happened to do more mentalism. And as a creator, I just happened to release more mentalism. Or my mentalism stuff were bigger hits. And at that point, people started referring to me as a mentalist. And they were like, Spidey the Mentalist. And I was like,
oh, I guess I'm a mentalist now.
I'll take it, yeah.
And that's not to say that didn't change throughout the years. I definitely now identify as a mentalist and a hypnotist more than a magician. But I'm very passionate about magic. I come home from shows, or I go back to my hotel rooms after a show and I grab my deck of cards and I practice. I'm still very passionate about magic. But here's the way I like to look at it. My job, my profession is that I'm a mentalist and hypnotist, but magic will forever be my hobby and my passion. I'm still very passionate about that as a hobby. So when I go out and I'm hanging out with friends, I'll still do a lot of magic because I love it. And I'll go on the websites, I'll go on Theory 11 and I'll call JB and I'll be like, yo, what's new in the magic world? Like what's cool and new and trendy? And I'll still do the magic. But my job is to be a mentalist. And I think that distinction is important because it keeps the passion alive. Because I'm so, sometimes I'm just so sick of mentalism and hypnosis. I don't want to think about it. I don't want to do it because my job is 24/7. When I'm not traveling, I'm on stage. When I'm not on stage, I'm working on YouTube videos or content and it gets so tiring. And
and the other thing, I was just going to say, the other thing is that, like, when you're working at a high level, your show, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but your show is almost the same every time. You know, it's not changing every single show. You're putting on the same show, which means that you can still enjoy your hobby of magic on the side. You know, like putting on a show is kind of like going to work, you know, and you know, moving boxes. And I'm not saying it's not enjoyable, but I'm saying like it's not the creative experience that you got from magic when you were young. You know, it's not the experimenting. It's not all the fun things that were magic. Performing on stage, doing magic, it's a different subset of those things, right? So I like the way that you mentioned that, like, magic is your hobby, sort of mentalism and hypnotism is your profession.
Yeah, let me address that. Let me address the structure of your show doesn't change, because I think that's very important to talk about that. When I was younger, it did. When I was starting up, the first couple of years, it did. Every show had new material, different material, and there was reason for that. And the reason was I hadn't found my voice. I didn't know what my solid material was. I didn't know what my bread and butter material was. I was just doing stuff because I thought because when you do close-up, that's the way it is, right? When you do close-up, you'll do a set now and then a set later and then another set, because the distinction is this: when you do close-up, you have a great control of your audience, because your audience is 4 or 5 people. So you're there, they're engaged.
Yeah.
And so you could try different material and go with the mood and see what they want. On stage, you have to go with the odds. You have to do the material that you know you're going to present really well and use the rest of your time to focus on engaging your audience. My material doesn't change now from show, well, except for when I bring in a new bit and work it into the show. Yeah, show to show, I'm doing the same thing. If you came to 3 or 4 of my shows, you would see the same bits, maybe 1 or 2. You know, like, here's the thing. In my show that's about an hour and 15 minutes, I do, hold on, see. All right, 3, 4. Let's say about 7 routines, right? But I have about 10 or to 12 routines that I love, that I've worked on, that are ready for my show. So every now and then I might pull one out and put another one in just for fun. Kind of like Penn and Teller. You know, Penn and Teller do the same show, but every now and then, they won't do this and they'll do that instead. You know, they do that all the time. And I think it's important to do the same kind of structure for a few reasons. And Jonah, I think it's important. You know, earlier you said you studied math, right? And basically, it's very simple. If you're looking for a result, I guess you're going to find a formula that gives you that result, and then why change it, you know?
Exactly.
If I'm looking for X, and I find the formula that gives me X, there's no reason to change that formula. I found it. So if I'm looking for a solid show that the people are going to love, and it's going to get me feedback on social media, why would I change it? I'll just make it better.
For sure.
So I found the tricks that work for me, that I could present well, that I enjoy doing, and that my audience seems to enjoy, and I just stick to it. So it's familiar. And also, when you do that, also, here's the other thing. The best jokes of any of your tricks on stage are not scripted. They will be scripted when you've done that trick on stage literally about 500 times. Maybe not 500, but like at least 50 times. And you've gone so comfortable with the trick that you allow more of your headspace to go to the presentation. And all of a sudden you just say this thing and it's hilarious. And then you remember it and you say it again and it's hilarious. And you keep going with it. Some of my best jokes were written that way.
For sure. And I feel the same way. I feel like I do all my scripting before, and then I go on stage, and then, eventually after having done it 30 or 40 times, all the best lines that are left in that script are all the stuff that came up in the show, that I came up with in the moment, and then I look at the script and I'm like, well, let's trash all the stuff I wrote before I ended up on, you know what I mean? Because I come out once I'm...
No, don't trash it. Don't trash it. It's a good skeleton. It's a good baseline.
One of the things that I wanted to ask you about is hypnotism. So on this podcast, we don't talk about method. So I don't really want to talk about method or any sort of secrets behind hypnotism. But it kind of feels like this thing, which is a sharp left from magic, but not a sharp left from magic. But, kind of like mentalism, but also kind of not. So what was it like? How'd you get into it? Like, how did you I don't know. I almost want to ask, like, how do you fail as a hypnotist on stage? You know, how do you go from, like, being a successful mentalist on stage to trying something like hypnotizing someone, you know, on a stage? Like, what's that transition like?
It's fascinating because when I... This brings up a lot of emotions. When I got into hypnosis as a profession, it's right around the time where I was starting to book more magic and mentalism shows. So it wasn't like I was a well-established mentalism and I was like, no, I'm going to be a hypnotist. It was right around the same time. But the most important question you ask is, how do you fail as a hypnotist? Because as a magician, failing means you mess up a trick. And that's fine, because the next one will be good, you know. So if you're doing a show and you screw up a trick, which happens to all of us, it's fine, because your next trick is going to be just fine. With hypnosis, if you fail at the hypnosis part, you look like a big idiot, which is so which is terrifying, which is the most terrifying thing. Imagine being a guitarist, and the second you get up there to play that guitar, you realize that you don't know how to play the guitar, or your guitar doesn't work. It's the freaking most terrifying thing on the planet. And I will never forget my first hypnosis paid contract. And we'll get to that in a sec. I was smart about hypnosis, I think. So hypnosis is another thing that I get a lot of... Almost every day I get someone write to me and say, so I got your DVD. It's great. I've hypnotized a couple of my friends, but I want to practice more. How do I do it? How do I go from being able to hypnotize a couple of my friends to the confidence I need to actually get in front of a crowd of people I've never met and do a hypnosis show? So it's a very hard question to answer. When I started, I did this. I knew I wanted to do hypnosis. I figured out my induction, and induction being what you say to put people into hypnosis.
Yeah.
And I practiced it for a while with zero results, as any hypnotist is going to.
Right.
My DVD induction will really help you get good at it, get good at it a lot faster. But still, when you try the first couple of times, it may not work, and then it did. It doesn't work until it does, and when it does, I personally was like, "Holy hell! I just hypnotized someone. I can't believe what's happening." I was addicted immediately. I couldn't believe it. It was like a superpower to me at the time, and so I decided, okay, I want to do more of this. So my first thing that I did is, at the time I was still in college, I would rent a classroom at Universal Break, lunch break on Thursdays, I remember. And I would tell the school that it was for a psychology study group, but I would actually invite people to get hypnotized. And the first time I did it, I hypnotized, I brought a group, and there was 20, 30 people who showed, there was about, 20 people who showed up, all friends and friends of friends. I hypnotized a few of them, and it worked really well, and then I did a few more. And then the next thing I knew, there was lineups at the door on Thursdays of people like waiting to come in because they'd heard through the grapevine of what the hell was going on in there. And then, what happened? And then I got confident enough to actually do shows. Now, the great thing for my career at the time was I was contracted to do resorts in the summer. I was doing the resort circuit at the time. And in the resorts, I would show up. I was contracted to be a magician or a mentalist. So I'd get there and they'd be like, they make my schedule. So it'd be like, okay, I'll do close-up magic at the bar on Wednesdays, and I'll do close-up in the restaurant on Thursdays, and then I'll do a close-up show on Friday by the bar. And then I'd be like, okay, stage, I'll be part of the variety show on Fridays. I'd be like, oh, by the way, I have a hypnosis show. Do you guys want to do that on Saturday? I'd be like, fuck yeah, let's do that. So it wasn't so much I had to sell the hypnosis show to someone who was paying for a show. I was at a resort. I was contracted to be there. So I was like, let's just do this hypnosis thing. So my first hypnosis shows, maybe I'm wrong about this, but I think we're at the resorts, which was great for me because I did have an audience, but I wasn't being paid for that one show. The first time I ever got paid for one show, for a hypnosis show, was a company doing a corporate Christmas party, which right now, I will tell you, right now in my career, I have a rider. And a rider, of course, for those of you listening who don't know what it is, a rider is part of the contract which stipulates a list of conditions that have to be met for the show to happen. You know, I need a mic, and I need a stage, all the way to I need, you know, a projector to project my promo video to, you know, my rider for hypnosis is a lot of things right now. Only because if certain conditions aren't met, I can't hypnotize. But back then, I didn't have a rider, I didn't have anything. So it was this corporate Christmas party, and I show up, and it's a party. Like, these people are drinking and dancing and all this stuff. And all of a sudden, it's like, okay, everyone, go back to your seats. This kid wants to hypnotize you. Like, think about that for a sec. How terrifying is that?
gosh.
Like, yeah.
Thank you. No.
At the time, now we say things like in my writer, the dancing has to happen after the show. The drinking, for the most part, has to happen after the show. During the show, the bar has to be closed and no service at the tables. So now there's all these conditions that help me. We even ask now when we get a contract, like, is your crowd a party crowd, or do they have the capacity to sit down and listen to a show? Because I don't want to waste your money. Hypnosis is the kind of thing where they have to sit down and listen. But at the time, I didn't know to have all these conditions. So I just show up, and it's this freaking party crowd, man. They're party animals. And all of a sudden, the DJ is, and you know how it is sometimes. You go to a party, and the DJ is announcing something, but like you don't know.
Yeah.
It's muffled. So the DJ's telling him to sit down. Nobody wants to sit down. They want to keep drinking and dancing. And here's Mr. Magic. And, now the other thing is this. Now, when they announce me, it's like, well, here's the guy who tours the world and has been on Discovery Channel and America's Got Talent, Canada's Got Talent, Penn and Teller Fool Us. And, they have all these quotes from People magazine. Back then, I didn't have any of that. It was like, here's this kid who wants to do a magic show. So I get on, and I'm talking, and I'm making my silly little jokes, and they're all looking at me like, can we dance, please? Like, what is this? And finally, I get a bunch of volunteers to come up, most of which I'm sure are just there to heckle me. And I can't remember if I was scared or if I was... Yeah. Well, I don't know. I can't remember if I was scared or if I was naively confident. You know what I mean? I was like, I got this. I could do this. So, I did it in the resorts. I could do it here. I don't remember what my attitude was, but thinking back to it now, I'm terrified now. So, anyways, I run my induction. I do what I got to do, and I hypnotize 2 people, which now isn't good, but back then it was great, especially because one of them was the CEO of the company. Yeah. So here I have, a couple hundred employees who get to watch their boss make a jackass of himself because he's hypnotized, which is amazing. So, so I put on a show with the CEO, and they loved it, and it was such a huge hit. And here's the thing. Sometimes it's going to be that. Sometimes your first show is going to be a huge hit, and sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's going to be a flop. But it's not a testament to your ability as a performer how good or how well your first show goes. It's a testament to your ability as a performer how many shows you book after that failure. How motivated you are.
And also how well, like, especially when you're starting, like, how well your best show goes, Like, knowing how good it could be when you're starting is you understanding as a performer, Like, if your first 30 shows, if they all suck, okay, maybe don't do this, maybe this isn't for you. But if the first 2, maybe you booked a venue you didn't know about, maybe this didn't go right, maybe whatever, maybe it took 4 for you to even realize what you really had to do, maybe it took... A great show should get you hyped about it, but not necessarily a first great show.
Yeah, and it's funny, man, because there's so many good things that you just said that I would like to elaborate on. First of all, if 30 shows go bad, look at the material, look at your personality, and ask people, like, what is it about the show that you would improve? Ask other magicians, ask laymen, ask... People's opinions matter. And, I want to talk about this. I want to talk so much about this. To all the magicians who are listening to this, I think this is the best piece of advice I could give to magicians who are starting off. Don't assume you're amazing. assume you suck and look at everything through those lenses. And that's, until today, that's the assumption that I look at my show through, or my performances through. So here's what I mean by that. So there's a psychological principle that says if you're looking for something, you're going to find that thing. Basically, if I'm miserable, I'm going to constantly find reasons to be miserable. You know what I mean? If I'm happy, I'm going to constantly find reasons to be. And it's the same in magic. If I'm sitting there in the headspace that I'm amazing and I'm the best magician on the planet, I'm going to look at myself and I won't criticize myself, because everything I look at will be, this was awesome and that was awesome, and oh, that joke was great and this trick was amazing. And I'll never look at why I suck. I'll only look at the reasons that I'm awesome. Look at it as though you're not awesome. Look at it as though you're terrible. Until today, I look at my show, my performance, everything as though I'm terrible. And I look for the areas where I could improve and get way better. And I talk to my magic friends, and I talk to my non-magic friends, and I go, what did you like? What didn't you like? Where could I improve? If there's a trick in the show that you could live without, which one would it be? And all this kind of stuff. When we all went through this phase where we were like, I'm better than Chris Angel. I'm better than David Blaine. I should be on TV. They shouldn't. And the truth of the matter is, we're not. We're not better than Chris Angel. We're not better than David Blaine. And even if magically we are, and we're still not, they did something right in terms of marketing. You know, like they did something. It's so easy when you're young to be like, oh, I'm the best. I'm better than this guy and I'm better than that guy. And oh, that guy doesn't deserve to be on TV. I deserve to be on TV. Maybe you deserve to be on TV, but they deserve to be on TV as well because they did something right.
They did it, right? Like, they got on TV. That's how you earn your right to be on TV, is by getting there.
There's this jealousy in magic that I hate. Do you guys ever see that? Like, there's this, oh, that guy sucks.
Oh, yeah. It's a very competitive, insecure art form at times.
And I hate that because, you know, yes, certain magicians could improve in certain areas, and certain magicians who are very famous or very well known, and I don't want to drop any names, could improve in certain areas, absolutely. And I think a big contributing factor to this is the competition shows on TV. And I don't mean the Wizard Wars and the Fool Us's. I mean the Got Talent. I've done the Got Talents, and I have a very good relationship with a lot of the Got Talents. But there's also a bit of, for me, an inherent problem in any competition where the judges are not qualified to judge the art form that they're judging. You know what I mean?
100%.
Yeah.
100%. Yeah.
So I think it puts the spotlight on the wrong people. What I mean by that is a lot of extremely talented magicians have not done well on these Got Talents because the judges don't know how original and how amazing the material is, because they don't understand the brilliance of it. And then other acts who are very amateur, in my opinion, have done good on that show because the judges think SpongeBalls is great magic. And SpongeBob...
And they also think that they invented it.
That's a huge thing. So they go, somebody will come out and do SpongeBall or something simple. I don't want to say SpongeBall because it sounds like I'm targeting someone in specific.
No, but I follow. There's so many examples where a magician advanced by doing a trick that is old, well-known,
choreographic,
exactly. Like,
want, right?
yeah, and then there's
which is fine. If you want to present a classic trick and you want to do a really good job at it, that's fine. But yeah, you're right. You know, if you did that for Penn and Teller, they'd say that's a good spin on this trick that already exists, but they wouldn't call it the trick of the century. You know, I think the biggest example for me is I don't think Penn and Teller would ever say that cartoon presented in the way that it's described in the little leaflet that you get is the most revolutionary trick that they'd ever seen.
100%. And also, the other example is, I don't remember his name, the football player who did the
choreographic,
big... Yeah. So that's an example. You know, it's a fantastic trick. It's been wowing audiences for dozens of years. Like, that's kind of the whole point of the trick, right? So I mean, great that guy went out, but I don't know, it doesn't lend to who the most talented person is.
Sure. And maybe it does. Maybe it does. Because you're talking about John Dorenbos, and I liked him. I thought he had great personality, and I thought
he was fantastic. But it was such a moment for me when I went, who, like, what, you know, like when somebody looks at David Blaine and says I could do that, they're wrong. But when someone looks at his performance and said I can do that, I maybe they could, like, they
depending on their personality,
they might be able to.
So here's the thing. There's a lot of ways to look at this. Like, somebody goes up and sings a cover song, right? Like, I Will Always Love You by Whitney Houston. Well, it's a cover song, and that's what John Dorenbos did. It was a cover trick. It wasn't his trick. The difference is this. The judges are qualified in music, so they go, that was a great cover song. But they're not qualified in magic. So they see these old tricks and they go, that's the greatest trick I've ever seen. Wow. And I'm not saying that these acts don't deserve to move on. It's just, I go back to my original statement. I have a problem with any competition where the judge is not qualified to judge what they're judging.
Mm-hmm. It's like, I understand what you mean 100%. It's like, if you're going to use America's Got Talent as your scale of who's the greatest, you're just doing it wrong. Like, go watch the FISM acts if you want a magic competition. You know what I mean? Like there's no need to be jealous because they don't know anything. So why do you care what those judges think of that person?
I don't mean to bash the Got Talent franchise. You know, it's done great things for the careers of...
Totally, yeah.
The counter argument to what we're all saying is, you know, they're looking for who the best entertainer is on that stage. So whether he's doing a trick that he invented or he's doing a trick that someone else invented, you know, think about, you go to a corporate gig. Who's better? The guy who's really entertaining, who does a trick that's 50 years old, or the guy who came up with his own trick and is not necessarily the most entertaining? So you know, they're not necessarily wrong by judging based on their instincts, knowing nothing about magic.
Absolutely. And you're right. I think I need to lay off, you know, I think this took a bit of a direction that I didn't mean for it to take. I don't mean to say that show is shit, nobody should watch it. It's very entertaining. There's incredible talent on that show. I myself have discovered great acts that I'm a big fan of now on that show. Yeah. And I think, you know, a lot, you know, again, some of my very good friends, Blake Voigt, Stephen Brundage, Derek Hughes, you know, I could name a whole bunch who have done so well on that show, and it really lent itself to their careers. And I was very happy to see them do well. I think what I was trying to say is, if you do good on that show, that's great, and it's really good for you. But don't use that as the only indication that you're great. And not just AGT.
Right.
Like, you know, I was on all these shows, and I don't sit there and go, I'm the best because I was on these shows. I still look at everything I do with a very critical eye, and always do that. Always look at it from, I suck, not I'm great.
So I have one more question, which is, I know that if you are doing the amount of shows that you're doing, it means that, and you are not a guy who does your own scheduling, and you're doing as much traveling that it necessarily takes to do all these things. My question is, you must have the best manager in the entire world who's doing everything, you know, who's got everything from the flights to the bookings to the things. So that's my question. So are you working with a manager? Obviously you are. What's the process like? Maybe touch a little bit on how one might find one, and also sort of what it's like, you know, working with a manager day to day.
So so much to say here. So much to say because I almost innovated the way I do this thing. And a lot of people come to me now, even professionals, asking me how I managed to get this in place. My manager is a manager now, and I would say he's one of the best in the business. But he wasn't a manager when I met him. He was a kid who needed money. And just as I learned how to be a great magician, he learned how to be a great manager. And now he's very sought after, and he has a bunch of acts who are asking to sign with him. But basically the way I do it is this. Yes, he's a great manager, but the way it works is this. In order to set up a very successful business as a performer, you need two things. You need to be really good at the performance aspect, and you need to be really good at the management aspect. I'm not good at the management aspect. Exactly. I'm not good at the management aspect, and I've always known that. And I have no interest in being good at the management aspect. And most importantly, when I'm not doing shows, I don't want to be at home booking flights. I want to be resting, playing video games, and hanging out with my friends. I need that. So, so my manager gets the cut that he gets, and it doesn't matter what that cut is, to take care of that entire aspect of the business. To book the flights, book the hotels, talk to the clients, set up the show. So all I have to worry about is him telling me, you're going to this airport, you're flying here, you're doing a show, be back by here, drop off the car. So I'm just following his schedule. On top of the manager, I have agencies everywhere. I have a massive agency for the US college market. I have an agency for the Canadian corporate market. I have all these. So the agencies get the gigs, send the info to my manager. My manager contacts the client, gets to know them, sets everything in place, does my scheduling, sends me the schedule, and off I go. I very often, what are we today? We're Thursday. Very often it'll be a Thursday, and I have no idea where I'm going to be on Saturday. I only know where I'll be on Thursday, and I might know where I'll be tomorrow. That's it. So, and yeah, it takes that. It takes a guy who's going to... So how do you go about getting a manager? It's a good question. A lot of people will go to existing managers and try to sign with them. And if you do that, you might get some business, but you won't be a star. You won't be a superstar. And the reason I say that is because you need a manager who believes in you, not a manager who wants to make money. So if you're going to go sign with someone, they're going to sign you because they just want to add an act to their roster off which they can make money. All the agents that I work with, and of course my manager, especially my manager, yeah, obviously they want to make money, but above that, they believe in me. Not a magician, not a hypnotist, Spidey. My manager signed with me early on, and he is still around because he believes that I can do this, you know, and I believe that he could do it as well. And it's, dude, it is tough. It's so tough to be a manager. You're basically going to ruin a friendship. That's step one. So that's what I'm recommending. I'm recommending, get a friend who believes in you, and somebody. For me, Kevin at first wasn't a friend. He was then dating and now married to my cousin. So he was a friend through association, and he needed money for something, so he organized the show, and then he kept getting phone calls for private contracts, so he kept at it, and then basically get somebody who believes in you and who's going to hustle for you because they believe in the end result, and that's the best manager you could get. As you learn the business, they'll learn the business too. That's what I think. I think that's the best way to do it. Some people might think I'm crazy and you got to get a manager who knows what they're doing. I don't know. Not for me. I don't think that's the way to go.
Honestly, it's a full-time, I don't want to say full-time job, but it's a full-time mental capacity to do all of the thing that it takes to manage a magician, and it also takes a full-time mental capacity to do what it takes to be a magician. And there are people who do both of them, and they do both really successfully, but, picking someone and training them from the start is a good idea, because why pick someone who's 5 years down the road when you can pick someone to train to be your manager and not...
Well, here's the thing. I didn't train him. I didn't train him at all because I didn't know the answers. He learned it the same way I learned it.
Yeah, he learned how to solve your problems.
Here's the thing, guys. We're talking... Right, yeah, exactly. We're now talking... I'm speaking to people who are starting up right now, and I'm assuming that's who we're addressing right now, because... The pros have a manager or know how to get a manager because they figured it out. That's why they're a pro. If you're starting up, be honest with yourself. You yet have a lot to learn about this business as well. I still have a lot to learn about this business. So you do as well. So why not make a long-term commitment? Get a manager who right now isn't going to be amazing, But as you learn, he learns along with you, and you'll both be ready at the same time.
Wow.
It's a good approach.
The last thing I want to ask before we jump into the last sort of wrap-up portion of the episode is, in terms of your branding, the name Spidey. Why? How did you come up with it? What has it done for you? What are the pros? What are the cons?
Great question. You guys are good at this. So kind of like Jonah specialized in performing at camps, I used to be a counselor in one. I used to be a camp counselor. And at the day camp that I worked at, the counselors all had nicknames. So we had to pick a nickname. I was a young teenager, and I picked Spidey. I don't know why. It's not even a comic book thing. I just thought it was a cute name. So I picked Spidey. And the first shows I ever did were for birthday parties of the kids that went to that camp, the first contracted shows. Right. And I made a bunch of business cards, and I didn't want the kids to know what my real name was, which also is a very difficult name to pronounce. And so Spidey was what I put on the business cards. It's done a lot. It's done a lot for me because here's the thing: you'll forget seeing a magician called John Smith, but you'll never forget seeing the magician called Spidey. You won't forget that.
That's true.
Yeah,
it's a good point.
Spider, what was it? Spider, or but you'll never quite forget it. The other thing is this: if my name was Jonah or Tyler, I might keep that when I perform. My name is one that is uncommon, unrelatable, difficult to pronounce, and also gets some prejudice. You know what I mean? Like, people hear Bedros Sakelian and they're like, is that Arab? What is, and it's,
Yeah.
And I'm not saying it's bad to be Arab at all. It's just, people have prejudice towards it, or, we tend to embrace things that we understand. And this has been proven again and again in psychological studies. If we understand or relate to something, we'll embrace it more. And I just find Spidey so much more relatable and embraceable than an extremely uncommon name such as Bedros. So I think it's done a lot for me. It's a name that I've come to embrace as my own. Everyone calls me Spidey. There's no one is left who calls me my real name except for very close family and friends who knew me when I was very young. But anyone who's known me since I was a teenager calls me Spidey. My girlfriend calls me Spidey. Her parents call me Spidey. It's just become my name.
You just embraced it, and it's worked. Awesome.
That's awesome. I love it. One of the things that we do when we get to the end of the episode is, because it's been a long episode of chatting, we each go around and we mention one sort of take-home point for somebody at home who's listening and trying to sort of grasp onto one nugget from today's episode that they can, because I know we touched on a lot of things. For me, there was a couple. One of the ones that I really loved was you talking about having a hobby of magic and a job sort of hypnotism and mentalism, because now that I'm just starting to do this professionally, I'm realizing that I'm losing my hours of fun that came out of magic, and I don't want to say that it's becoming a job, because it's not. I still love it, absolutely, but there's things that are becoming rote, and I'm doing them over and over again, and it's no longer creative. And so I really like that separation, and being able to keep that in mind as you become a working entertainer is really good. And the other thing I like is trusting in your friends to become your managers. I think that's a really cool approach. It's something we've never heard so far. Sort of the standard approach is like, get booked so much that when you do approach a regular manager, you'll have something to show for yourself. But I like saying, I don't want to be the booking guy, but I do have friends that do want to, want me, and they'll be able to make some money by hustling hard, and let's just pair that together. So I think that's a really cool approach. I'm going to go look for some friends who believe in me. Tyler, what about you?
I think that you should only ever be allowed to have one final point at the end, because you always eat up all the good ones.
Sorry.
But no, I agree with the manager approach. I actually love that. I feel like you can get a very sort of real bond with a work partner to help grow your business and help make their life successful if that's what they love to do. Also, I love the idea that each step is not the final goal, it's just the next step. It reminds me of a Steve Jobs quote. I won't be able to say the whole thing because it's a whole speech, but the idea is that you can only connect the dots going backwards, right? You can't look forwards and draw your path. You can only see the path that brings you to where you are and then keep moving. So, it was inspiring to hear that idea and to hear that I could just get a friend and we could go on this crazy journey together and see if we can get some cool shit done. What about you?
I think the two biggest points, aside from all the ones that you said, which I think are absolutely great, I think the two most important ones for me is, Tyler, like you just said, the whole each step, each opportunity is just an open door for more opportunity. So don't ever see anything as an end goal. Like, yes, I got on TV, I'm done. Or, yes, I got, an agency to sign me, I'm done. No, these are all, or yes, my YouTube video just got, a couple thousand views, whatever it is, whatever you're happy with. When you reach those goals, just set new ones and go towards those, I think is huge. And I think the other thing, the most important thing that I said in this entire shitstorm of conversation is don't ever look at yourself with the goggles of I'm awesome. Always look at yourself with the goggles of I suck. It'll just motivate you, and it will give you that critical, sort of angle to better yourself continuously. And also it'll create less of that jealousy in our little community that I hate.
Yeah. We could talk about that forever.
Yeah,
that's a whole episode.
In the last minutes of the episode with, the ears of at least, last count, millions of magicians, is there anything that you want to tell them, whether you want to pass on, plug a product or something, or pass on some word of advice? You've passed on some pretty deep advice, but any last things you want to tell an infinite amount of
listeners
magicians?
At home?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's the following: we live in what I call a one-touch society, where everything you want is a touch away. You want to hear that song you heard on the radio, you go on your iTunes and you download it. You want something to eat, it's one touch on your phone and you order it. This has made us lazy to where we think that big things are one touch away. They're not. Big things are 30 touches, 100 phone calls, and 6,000 shows away. It doesn't mean that you're failing if you don't hit that goal immediately. Set yourself on the right path, set smaller goals, and you'll get there. It's very demoralizing sometimes when you really want that opportunity, especially the bigger scale you get, the bigger those opportunities are and the easier they are to miss, right? Because when you're starting up, an opportunity for you is, I want to get a corporate gig. Well, there's millions of them out there and you're going to get one. But when you get more and more, it's more prestigious opportunities. Like, I want to get that television spot. And you may not, but that's fine. Keep going, and just realize that success, especially for entertainers, is not one touch away. That touch will help you get closer to it, but work for it. Because none of us, I promise you, you can name, how many Canadian magicians are there that are doing really, really well in the public eye? I don't think there's more than a dozen. I can name Sean Farquhar, Chris Funk, Wes. I will humbly throw myself into that mix. Eric Leclerc, absolutely. In the French community, we have Vincent C., Chris Ramsey, obviously. Who else? I said Wes. I'm missing a few. Ben Mayhew, Ben Train, Chris Mayhew. I'm missing a few, and I apologize. Oh, of course, Bobby. Of course, Bobby. I'm missing a few, and I apologize for the ones I didn't name, but it's not more than a dozen. But all these guys are hustlers. Tyler, you said Eric. You were talking about Leclerc, correct? Yeah. If you look at Leclerc and Ramsey and West and all these guys, Farquhar, Funk, Ekaterina, I'm so sorry. All these people are extreme hustlers. Eric Leclerc makes me nervous watching him go from show to show, come back, film an episode of something for TV, go there, do a YouTube thing. It's not easy. What you see, our success that you see, is maybe 2% of the work that goes behind it. So keep hustling, people.
Yeah, exactly. Spidey, thank you so much. It was an awesome episode full of a lot of info, a lot of new, interesting ideas we've never heard before, possibly a video episode, and packed full of content. So thank you so much for everything. And once again, thank you to everybody at home for listening. There's some more proof that you can spend an hour working on magic without it being card tricks. So there you go. Great job to you. And see you next week.
Take care, everyone.
Peace.
Spider-Man, does whatever a spider can. Spins a web any size, catches thieves just like flies. Look out, here comes the Spider-Man. Is he strong? Listen, bud, he's got radioactive blood. Can he swing from a thread? Take a look overhead. Hey there goes the Spider-Man. In the chill of night, at the scene of a crime, like a streak of light, he arrives just in time. Spider-Man, Spider-Man, friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. Wealth and fame, he's ignored. Action is his reward to him. Life is a great big hang-up. Wherever there's a hang-up, you'll find a Spider-Man.
Well, there you go. Episode 59 of Discourse in Magic with Spidey. One last thing. I know that you know about this podcast one of two ways. One, somebody told you about it. Two, you found it on social media. Now, to be honest, those are the only ways that people find this podcast. It would mean the world if you shared this episode or any other episode that you loved in any of those two ways, because that seems to be the way that people find them. Either share it on the soch or share it with a friend. Either way, it means the world. And either way, I'll see you next Thursday with episode 60.